Hello everyone and welcome to Underwater Adventures with Alex Mirabal. Today we will have a very fun video. This video is based on the many questions that friends and sometimes colleagues ask me during get-together parties, and because of that I have realized the many misconceptions there are about our expeditions and how is diving in historic shipwrecks, treasures, maritime archaeology. So I made a list of 10 of these misconceptions and I will want to share them with you. If you by chance have any of these in your list, well, you can now tick it off. So let's dive into it. Number one, sharks are everywhere. I start with this one because this is the one I get the most. It's the questions that most people ask me. Are you afraid of sharks? Are sharks a real danger? When you're working, it must be very dangerous. Well, okay, it's not. Sharks are in the ocean. You can eventually encounter one or two or one day, and then you spend months without seeing a shark. Let's have into account that most of the historic shipwrecks have been produced by stranding the ship in shallow waters. So most of the wrecks are very shallow, in reefs or nearby reefs, where the population of fish is not probably big enough to attract sharks as their natural habitat. Sometimes you find few sharks or sharks can come reasonably close, but they have never, at least in our experience in this many years working around the world, shark has never been a threat to the team or to the work you're doing. Remember, we work with tools. There are various divers in the water at the same time making noise with the bubbles, the regulator. We, for them, are also quite a big fish, so it's not something they will feed on or attack on regularly. It would be a territorial problem only in few cases. I have one case in which we were starting to work in a wreck in a reef, and the second and the third day we arrived, there were two big sharks, really nervous when we start putting our ropes and our grids for the excavation, and the sharks were really nervous, and they seemed to be ready to attack us, to take us out of their reef. Obviously it took us like 2 or 3 days diving there and making a lot of actions and efforts and noises so they move away. As soon as they move away, there was like any other wreck. There was no incident. Sharks are not inclined to come close when you are making so much noise. Remember also, when you are excavating, you are putting sediment up. Water is getting muddy. The tools we use make strange noises for them. It must be uncomfortable for them to go there. You are not dealing with blood, so we are not spear fishing. You are not dealing with dead fish. There is nothing that would attract the sharks, only their curiosity to see, check on what you're doing, and then they leave. So sharks are by no means, in the work we do, a real threat. There are other creatures in the sea which are way more dangerous to us than sharks, like sea urchins, moray eels. These are the guys you can find when working under the rocks and moving rocks. You can get stung by the urchins. You can get bitten by a moray eel, which is there, and you are disturbing their place. But sharks are not one of them. So if anyone has ever the idea to work in this but is too afraid of sharks, you can tick it off, knowing that sharks will not pose a threat to the team that is excavating a shipwreck. Number two, you can go inside the wreck. This is One also that has been asked to me many times, and people ask me if I'm not afraid going inside such an old ship. It is an image that has been created by cartoons and Hollywood movies and the popular imagination. The historic wrecks, they were made of wood. Wood disappears in fairly short time, let's say 10, 20, 15 years. The wood will disappear, the organism will eat this wood, and the ship itself will disappear. What you can recognize as a ship will disappear, let alone having holes in which you can squeeze your body in and go into the hole to find the objects. It is not like that. What we find normally is after the wood disappear, all the objects which are less perishable than the wood or organic materials will deposit on the seabed. They will be covered by sea growth or by sediment that will come, sand, mud, that will come and deposit on them. And sometimes these objects will be buried under a layer of new sediment. So you have to excavate to get to this layer, what we call the cultural layer, because it's the layer that contains the objects that they came with the ship and parts of the ship which were not wood, and very little of the wood will remain. There are some instruments and some tools made of wood, a very strong wood that will last a little bit longer, and it also depends in which conditions these objects are along the centuries, so they can stay more or less stable. But there is not such a thing of an entire ship with the hole in the side that you cannot go in and out. There is no penetration in an historic shipwreck. In the modern shipwreck, yes, you will have the steel ships, you will have plastic ships that they are for modern times, and then in those you can go in, you can go out. Not in the wrecks we work on. In the historic wrecks, let's say everything which is, it was made of wood and is older than 150 or 200 years. If it's older than that, there are very little possibilities that you will find any wood at all, not even considering that you can go inside the wreck. So don't think about that. It's not dangerous. It's not that something will fall on you because you are in a place which is fragile. It's not. Wood has disappeared and the objects are under the sediment. Number 3, human skeleton. Everyone seems to connect the shipwrecks with the casualties on the shipwrecks and the people who die on them. So many people think that you will be diving in a place that will be full of human remains. Fortunately, it's not like that. Unfortunately, people perish and they die in these accidents because they are normally traumatic events. People die on them, but many times sailors, passengers, they drown or they die when they are moving away from a sinking ship. They are in the small lifeboats or swimming. Even if, unfortunately, any person gets trapped into the ship, it will float afterwards and it will move away. It is not common at all to find human remains. We have found twice human remains in 37 years of working more than 300 shipwrecks. So you can see how little this proportion is. It is way more normal, frequent, to find bones and skeletons of animals that they were on the ship. They were transporting live animals to keep them for food during the long trips. These ships have a lot of rats and smaller animals. It will get trapped in the ship when the ship goes down, and then those bones like chicken and pig bones and rats, rabbits, turtles, you will find them way more often than human remains. This is also something we use a lot in our research because it gives us a clue, it gives us information about how was the feeding habits of how do they solve these long trips to have food for so many people for so many days, or in cases some months. So yes, you can tick that one off as well. There is fortunately not many times that you will come across human remains. In case you do and you're working on this, there are protocols to follow to show the proper respect for that person who lost their life there. And you have to be very respectful and you have to be very thorough when recording and collecting human remains. But no, this is not something that happens very often. Number 4, silver is shiny. This is, again, it has been put out with movies and bad documentaries. When you find these beautiful silver objects shining as if you would have them at your home or in a museum, with everything is shiny, is clean. Well, okay, in the case of silver, it doesn't work like that. Silver is a metal that it gets oxidized quite fast. Even in jewelry that you have at home, or a ring or a chain or something which is silver, you put it in the drawer, it stays there for 3-4 weeks, a month, and then it comes a little bit blackish. You see some black on it, and it gets without shine, it gets dull. So this happened in the drawer of your house. Imagine an object made of silver in sea water for 300, 350, 400 years. They get oxidized quite quickly. They turn mostly black. They get a lot of concretion from their surrounding in the oxide layer. They will get stuck little stones of pieces of coral that will really make the object look everything but shiny, everything but beautiful. Is just like a black concretion. So silver, iron, many objects made of metal, different metals, they will concrete quickly because they will oxidize. It doesn't happen the same with gold. It doesn't happen the same with bronze or copper, or with lead, which are very poisonous. Not the gold, but copper and lead are very poisonous. Their oxide is very poisonous, so they don't get covered by sea growth that easily as other metals. But in case of the silver and most of the jewelry, coins and things that you find in bigger quantities in an historic shipwreck, they are made of silver. You will not find them if you are looking for something shining on the seabed. So that one, you can tick it off as well. Number 5, treasures are inside the chest, all mixed. This is an image we all have. We all have the image of this beautiful chest or coffer that is open with all these beautiful objects inside, hanging from one side, pearl necklaces, silver jewelry, crowns of gold with the stones and coins all mixed together. Okay, that is not true. It's not only because the chest will disappear, any chest, crates, boxes, wooden boxes, the crates in which they transported the goods, it will disappear faster than the hull of the ship because they are made of wood, but it's thinner wood, and it's a wood that will degrade faster than the rest of the ship. So these boxes and crates, not even chests, they will disappear very quickly. Second, you will never put together different types of metals or different type of objects in a box that they can get scratched. If you have in your house some jewelry and you have a delicate object that you bought very expensive, you don't mix them all and put them all in one bag. They will break one to another. They will scratch one to another. Actually, for the transport of these valuable items, in the past, they took a lot of precautions. Even the newly minted coins, I mean the coins that they were just made and transported to Spain or to the Americas, depend when they were made. When they were brand new, in the crates that they transport these coins, they will put some soft material like grass between the coins, so the coins will not scratch each other. This applies for silver coins or gold coins. So you don't want a brand new minted gold coin that gets to your hands all scratched. So they took precautions for that. So imagine putting that together with glass objects and with pearls, that one material will damage the other.
So you're telling me that Pirates of the Caribbean and Fool's Gold are wrong and lying?
They are very entertaining.
Yeah.
But is not exactly a class of history or archaeology.
Yes.
So you cannot watch these movies expecting that.
Yeah.
It is fun. It is certainly very fun.
Yeah.
But this didn't happen like that. And in the novels, old novels like, the Pirate Island and the Treasure Island and all this, is always illustrated in a way that you will see this coffer with all these mixed treasures, like call it, inside. It never happened. It doesn't happen. When you find, because we have found bags of silver coins with little gold earrings and cufflinks,
Cufflinks.
yeah, cufflinks inside, made of gold, but this was smuggling. That was put inside within the coins so they don't get registered and they don't have to pay the tax to the crown for owning these objects. So it was not a practice at all to transport jewelry or treasures or valuable objects all mixed together in any sort of chest. What it was normal is the crates that will transport the silver, the coins, they were together in chests. Actually, in each of these crates, they will have a certain number of coins, a certain number of reales, the values of the coins, so they will add up to a certain amount so they can be accounted better. It was not putting all together messy in a way of that you cannot even count what is inside into a chest. So if you're diving in an historic shipwreck, don't look for the chest. It's not there. Number 6, you need special skills to be on the team. Divers are brave and courageous. Okay, this is one that I get most from the dive colleagues. Even in the diving world, I have many colleagues that has approached me because they are interested in participating in expeditions, but they always come saying, yeah, I don't know anything about this. I know that you guys have some sort of illuminated people that have special skills. This takes a very special kind of diver to do this job. It's not. You need to dive, you need to know how to dive, and you need to know how to learn. This is an activity that is so small within the entire diving world that obviously there are not many people that have the experience of having it done before. But that happens to all of us. No wreck is the same. No methodology that you apply to one wreck you will apply for all. So we are all constantly learning as well. So it is not true, it is not a requirement that you have to be special in something to be a diver or a part of our team. Obviously, we always prefer divers that have some experience in working with certain tools or operating some magnetometer size scan sonars, but in case that they don't, we learn together. We teach them, anyone who knows how to dive and is eager to learn, it will be part of a team in no time. You don't really need, you are part of the team as well. You are part of the team as well. So you don't really need beforehand to have this special skill or nothing that you born with it. It's not like that. It's a job. It's a job like any other job that you can be trained, you can learn, and there is no superpowers to have to be able to do this job properly. Number 7, you can get rich. This one is important because this one is one that comes to me every time. Okay, during this job you will not get rich. This is a job, as I mentioned in other points, this is a job like any other job. Most of the time you pay on the salary. It's a salary like everyone else has a salary. And also people who do this activity have to understand that these are not treasures, these are not values that are laying on the seabed, and you will recover them and you will make money out of them. That was in the past. Perception of underwater cultural heritage has changed. We have all developed and understood that this is a resource that humankind has and has to be exploited in the way that humankind get the profit, not a person that will sell 3 coins and then suddenly we get this much money. On top of it, these artifacts in the time that they were sold and auctioned, these are not artifacts that are so worthy. They are not so valuable. They are not so expensive. Forget the idea that you will dive, and after 2 dives in a rich wreck where you have plenty of treasure, you will become a millionaire or you will have a lot of money afterward. That doesn't happen. It is very expensive to pay for the expedition, pay the operation, pay the team, pay the tools, your equipment. Then you have to conserve these objects and make a conservation lab. It has to go through long conservation processes. So this is not an activity that you could see in movies or reading books, that people will go dive in a wreck, take silver bar or ingot, and then suddenly he's rich and he's buying a new house and he's buying a car. That doesn't happen. It's a job like any other job. And mostly today, we have all learned that these are not objects to be traded. So if your approach now, the new people who are approaching this activity and is so nice and so passionate about it, don't bring this as your motivation, because it's not the way it happens. You are dealing with a resource that belongs to the entire humankind, not to one company or one person or a license holder. So yes, I'm sorry to break this on to you guys. You will not get rich doing this. Number 8, there is a great find every day. Okay, I wish it would be like that. Of course, we all think that because of documentaries and the articles in the magazine where information about these expeditions and the excavation works and the recovery of these objects is condensed in few pages or in few minutes in a documentary. But I have mentioned in other videos, to get to a great find, I mean an artifact that will tell you great part of the story you are trying to unveil, it's a hard work. Most of these historic wrecks are, as I mentioned before, under the sediment. Sometimes this sediment is hard, it's like really hard rock or coral and dead corals which are over the wreck. They grew over the wrecks along the years. And to get to the cultural layer in the place that you will find these artifacts and start excavating very carefully, you need to do a lot of work, and sometimes it's a very boring work, removing sediment, whatever sediment it is. It doesn't matter if it's sand, if it's mud, if it's rocks or boulders. This is a tedious work, but it's a work that has to be done. So there are sometimes weeks in a row, sometimes months in a row, where you are doing these preparation works. You are preparing the site to be properly excavated. This is part of the excavation, but it's like the boring part. And this takes ages, mainly when you're not finding anything, because any find in a wreck site, it doesn't matter how insignificant might look at the first, it always sparks conversations and analysis on board, and then your time in a ship offshore away from your house, it gets more interesting, it gets more fun, because you are talking about these findings, this new object that nobody knows what it is, and people are giving their theories and their opinions. It is very nice when you are in this situation, but unfortunately this doesn't happen on a daily basis. There are moments, long moments, in which we are just doing these boring jobs, and then it gets to a point in which you arrive to a certain level of the excavation in which, yes, you have these interesting finds almost every day or almost every dive. But it's not like that along the expedition. So yeah, have that in mind, that if you are in one expedition or planning to go into an expedition, that you can get part of this time, you will not be as excited as other moments of the expedition. It's an ups and downs, and sometimes takes a long period of time to get to the most exciting part. So have that in mind. Number 9, expeditions are fun and exciting. Okay, this is slightly related to the previous point which I talked. Expeditions are work trips. There are trips that you do away from home, away from the comfort of the city and all your day-to-day life, to get into difficult places to do a difficult job. And expeditions are not only diving and excavating a wreck or searching for a wreck or a very creative activity. Expeditions demand you to be aware of a lot of mundane things that you will have to take care of because you are in a ship. And if a ship is not properly looked after, it will sink and you will create a new wreck. So what we do during expedition, probably 60% of your time will be fixing stuff in the ship, getting it tidy, organizing your tools, getting the tools ready for the work, cleaning up. You have to clean up the ships that we use for expeditions. They are not these luxury ships. The ships, sometimes you don't even have enough, say, toilets or cabins for people to have their own privacy. It is a little bit of like when you go out to the mountain and you live in a tent, and also your comfort is reduced to the minimum necessary for you to rest properly, to feed yourself properly, and to work. These are work trips. Expeditions are not a weekend group of friends that get into a boat and go out there and find some treasure. It doesn't work like that. So if you are going ever in an expedition, be aware that you're joining a working team, a team that will be working in the sea, and you will be given tasks. Probably were not the ones that you envisage when you're trying to join an expedition. Everyone wants to dive the most it can, but to be able to dive, you have to fill bottles, you have to change the oil of the compressor, you have to have the boat in working conditions and living conditions, and this is all distributed within the team. There is no more people to help on board but the team, and the team has been multitasking all the time because these are jobs that needs to be done. So if you're joining an expedition, have that in mind. Don't get discouraged the first day because you have to clean the ship from the bow to the stern. It happens and someone has to do it, and there is only us to do it. So bear that in mind. Expeditions can be challenging as well. Number 10, the cross in the map. Everyone knows about that, the cross in the map that will mark the treasure that will be either in the water or in land. Let's talk about that a little bit. First, it was not a practice from pirates or sailors in general to bury treasure. That comes from the books, that comes from movies and urban legends. People didn't bury treasures, mainly in places that they could not come the next day and pick it up, because that was the entire purpose of the money that was in those chests, in those crates. It was to use it. Pirates risked their lives attacking Spanish fleets, Portuguese fleets, Dutch fleets. They risked their lives to get hold on some money to go quickly and spend it in Tortugas or wherever they were staying, to buy better ships, to buy houses, to buy food. That was their unorthodox way of making money. It was not to hide it in an island and never come back. Even less, making a map pointing exactly where they buried it for you to come 300 years later and find it.
So X doesn't mark the spot.
X doesn't mark the spot. I have come across to some, let's say, manuscripts or old documents in which they emulate a bit this thing of having a cross in the map and indicating you where a treasure is. All of them that we have come across, even coming from archives, have proven to be a hoax. Never did that. Even in the few cases that a ship has wrecked close enough to the coast, they have been few survivors, and they have to bring down these heavy crates with silver coins and with ingots that didn't belong to them, that belonged to the crown, for instance. And they cannot move those heavy boxes to a habited place or a stronghold that they would have in another part of the country. They would bury them in the beach for a short time, leaving someone guarding the place and going and look for soldiers or help and people to come and unbury it and take it to safety. It is not true that you will stumble in a bar with the grandson of some sailor that got a map from a pirate that he was drunk and he never managed to do it, and he will pass it on to his grandson, and his grandson will pass it on to you in a drinking night. This is very good for movies. This is very good for books. It's unfortunately it doesn't work like that. It takes you a lot of hard work and discipline and methodology and science to get to a point in which you could estimate more or less which is the area in which you could find this or the other ship that was lost, let alone that after the ship is lost, many times they were not in the business of leaving treasure behind. They come back next month, next year with more ships, with more people. They knew where they sunk their ship, and they will rescue the things. They will salvage their things, their treasures, their valuables. So don't expect this lucky strike. It never happened. It's all very romantic, but it never happened, and it will not happen in the future, every day less. So just be cautious when you are presented to a story like this. Thank you very much for getting to the end of the video. I hope you enjoy it, and if you found yourself in any of these descriptions as something that you have thought in the past that now you have a different view, or if you have also an idea of what we do and how we do it, and you want to share it with me, that would be great. Please do it in the comments. As I said before, we will be checking all the comments and trying to answer most of the questions. If people have particular questions, if you also have an idea of 5 mistaken cases of this, or 5 bigger treasures or whatever, let me know. And I will try to make a video for that, so you can get your questions answered and a better knowledge of what we do and how interesting and nice this activity is. So stay in touch and keep on diving.